Hello, everyone. You know the drill, or if you don't, please put your name and organization in the chat and let us say hi to you. While we all get on, I'm going to go through a few things. So welcome to the AI for Nonprofits webinar. This webinar is hosted by the Marketing Peer Network. We have 80 people that are registered to join us today. So this is a hot topic, and we're very thankful for Brittany for bringing this topic back to us. So if you're interested in joining the peer network or have not yet joined the Marketing and Communications Peer Network, I encourage you to do that. We'll put the link in the chat. And on this page, you can learn more about our peer networks. If you join a peer network, you'll get occasional newsletters, access to resources, and you can join events. But if you join a discussion group for a peer network, you join an online community, and that's a place where we can join, connect, share information, ask questions, share our expertise. It's a great place to connect with professionals that are working in the same area as you. So if you go to togethersc.org /peer networks, you can learn how to join a peer network here, which is in your member compass, or join a discussion group. So when if you join the discussion group, you can select any of these groups here and join them, so you can be on multiple groups having multiple conversations. Right now, the Marketing Communications group has 33 members, and we launched in January. We are always daily asking questions, sharing resources. It's been a really great space for us to collaborate together. Next, I just want to remind you guys about all the great events we have coming up. We have some awesome in-person events in June. The nonprofit peer meetup in the Midlands, and right across the street on the same day is Nonprofits Pack the Park, which is a nonprofit fundraising event. So please check that out. I'll also put that link in the chat for our upcoming events. We also have, I know a lot of us wear multiple hats, so if there are development and fundraising folks in here, you might want to join the Low Country event at the end of June. The Marketing Peer Network is also hosting a few other webinars like this one. Coming up next in August is Maximizing Your Google Grant in 3 mostly easy steps. We also have a membership webinar, so you can remember and learn all the benefits of membership. And the Marketing Peer Network is hosting How to Evaluate the Life Cycle of a Website. And we have 5 great people hosting a few great calls in September and October. And most excitingly, the Nonprofit Summit is coming up. I'll also put this link in the chat. You can learn more and save the date, but we have a theme and a blog from our co-chairs that are amazing co-chairs. We're so excited to work with them this year. But if you're interested in joining the planning committee for the summit, like really help plan the days and the sessions, please feel free to join us. If you want to share your knowledge with the nonprofit and philanthropic community, you can submit a speaker session. I'll put all these links in the chat. We're very excited about the Nonprofit Summit this year. And to wrap up, I just wanted to thank our marketing and communications leadership team and our co-chairs this year. This is the first year we've had, since January, the first year we've had the Marketing Peer Network, and they have been amazing. And we've really built something really great. I'm really proud of it. So I just want to thank these folks and invite anyone who's interested in joining the leadership team. Just send me an email, let me know, and we'd be happy to have you join us. And with that, I'm going to pass the mic to our co-chair, Alex Moore, to intro our speaker today.
Thanks, Brooke. I am really excited to introduce our speaker for this session. She spoke at the last Together SC Summit, and it was so popular. I'm pretty sure she was like overrun with people coming up to her afterwards with questions and wanting to know more. We know this is a hot topic. So we've also gotten feedback that, members would appreciate longer sessions so that we can really deep dive into these topics. So that is what we are giving you today. So fill up your coffee, get your water, whatever you need to do, because this is a little bit of a longer session because this is such an interesting and, as again, very relevant topic. So with that, I will introduce our presenter, Brittany Mazik. She is a dedicated nonprofit operations manager with over 6 years of experience in the sector. She currently serves as an integral part of Community Initiatives, Inc. in Greenwood, South Carolina, where she combines her passion for efficient processes and community impact to drive organizational success. Brittany is also a community health worker supervisor experienced in developing training curriculums for those community health workers and innovating healthcare with AI. She holds a degree in business and has 4 certifications in AI. She has dedicated countless hours to studying how AI can benefit nonprofits and the public health space, highlighting her commitment to community advocacy and operational efficiency. I'm so excited to introduce Brittany Mazik. Brittany, take it away.
Good morning, everyone, and happy Wednesday. I almost said happy Thursday. I'm trying to rush us to the weekend, but happy Wednesday. I want to first say thank you so much to Together SC for bringing back a part 2, another session on AI and nonprofits. If you don't know, if you haven't heard, AI is all the buzz right now. So many people, so many industries are talking about AI and how they can use it to increase efficiency. And I'm a firm believer, because nonprofits are my heart, that nonprofits should not be left behind in this conversation. So I am super excited to have a little bit longer time to speak about AI today. We're going to dive into some use cases. We're going to talk about some biases. We're going to talk about some things that people are apprehensive about, and hopefully have some fun while doing it. I love to say and preface all of my sessions with the fact that I am a millennial. I am a true 90s baby. So tech kind of comes to me naturally, but I do understand that tech does not come to everyone naturally. So I want to make sure that I break down AI, and I always strive to make this conversation easy for everyone to understand, because AI is tech, and tech can get very, what I like to say, techie. There's a lot of big words, there's a lot of definitions thrown around, and I really, really want to make sure that everybody understands what AI is and how they can use it to be more efficient. So with that being said, we're going to get started. The first thing that I want to do is to let everybody know that although this is a session, this is very much a conversation. Feel free to come off of mute if you have a question, or put it in the chat. We have moderators here who are monitoring the chat, and hopefully will stop me if I start going too fast if we do have any questions. So feel free to come off mute if you have questions while I'm talking. I love tech. I love nonprofits. So I get really passionate about this subject. And I sometimes start talking super fast. So I am going to try and slow down today. But if I do start talking a little too fast, feel free to say, okay, Brittany, you just went over our head, slow down a little bit, or put a question in the chat. The first thing I'm going to do is also drop in the chat a PDF. This is a nonprofit prompt toolkit. This is what I use when I am prompting the resources that I use AI. It has a plethora of prompts. I think over 50 prompts. I made it accessible when I did my session in February, and I got a lot of feedback of people that loved it and are still using it today. So I am, if you just give me 1 second, I'm going to drop that in the chat so that everybody can have access to download that. It is a PDF, so you shouldn't have any problems downloading it and using it for your daily use. I have included prompts from everything from marketing to so whichever avenue that you're in nonprofit, you should definitely be able to use this resource. And so I am dropping that in the chat now, hopefully. And if I cannot get it in the chat, I'll make sure that one of our moderators have it so that they can make it accessible to everyone. Desmond, can you give me a little instruction on how I can put that in the chat? I don't see
Sure, you
PDF.
should be able to just attach a file at the bottom
Okay.
when you're in the chat to the left of the send button.
Perfect. I actually do not see the option on my screen. What I'm going to do is just drop it to you. I'm going to email it to you, Desmond. And
Yes, I'll take care of it.
if you could put it on there, that would be amazing. Thank you so much. I'm glad to have people here that can help navigate these waters. Okay, Desmond, you should have that in just a moment. And with that being said, we'll get started with our presentation today. And I am going to share my screen. I hope to be able to seamlessly navigate technology today. But I do know sometimes when you're on Zoom, there are some hiccups and there may be some slow loading of the systems and platforms that I'm using. So guys, just bear with me as I'm going to be going between Canva and ChatGPT and Claude to show you some things. So I want to make it seamless, but just in case technology is not our friend. All right, I'm sharing my screen. Can everybody see my slideshow?
We can.
Perfect. Thank you. So again, welcome to AI for Nonprofits, and we're going to talk about elevating efficiency and impact today. Before we dive into what is artificial intelligence, I have 2 questions on a poll. If you guys could take just a moment and answer those questions. The first one is, did you attend the AI for Nonprofit session during the Together SC Summit in February? And the second one is, are you currently using AI, whether that is personally or professionally? So we just want to kind of get a room temperature here of how many people were able to attend the session. If you weren't able to attend the session, are you using AI right now? Yes, I'm using AI. No, I am currently not using AI, but would like to start using it just so we can see where everyone is. And I see those answers coming in. 79% of people said no, they were not able to attend the session in February. There might have been in another session, which is absolutely fine. So I'm glad to see newcomers, 21% said they were able to attend the session. Thank you for those who returned. That's amazing. That lets me know I did an okay job. For the second question, are you currently using AI? 68% of the room says yes, they are using AI in some form or fashion, whether that is personally or professionally. 32% say no, I am not currently using AI, but I would like to start using it. I love to ask that second question because a lot of people do not realize that they're using AI when they are. So if you have an Alexa device in your home and you say, "Hey, Alexa," and she starts playing your favorite song or turns on your lights. If you have Siri on your phone, when you go to websites and you look at the chat bot that's on the left-hand side of that screen that says, "Hey, would you like to chat with a representative?" A lot of people don't know, but all of that is AI. Even when you scroll on your iPhone now and you look in your photo gallery, which I think is so cool, they show you summaries of what you were doing a year ago. They show you collections of or collages of pictures. All of that is machine learning and AI. So in some capacity, most of us are already using artificial intelligence. We just don't know it. And so today we're here to talk about how we can use this artificial intelligence for good and in our everyday operations. So let's get into it. What is artificial intelligence? AI refers to the simulation of human intelligent processes by machines, especially computer systems. It involves the development of algorithms that enables computers to perform tasks that normally require human intelligence. That's a long definition. All that means is AI is allowing your computer or allowing a machine to perform like a human. That's all it means. I really like to simplify these definitions so that we understand. So a lot of people ask the question, how long has AI been around? OpenAI has been one of the most popular platforms for AI. That's the platform that hosts ChatGPT. It was released in 2022 to the public. And so some people think that AI just hit the scene in 2022, and that could not be farther from the truth. I like to share this timeline and show people exactly how long AI has been around and the evolution of it. AI has been in the background and being developed since the early 1930s. So this is not anything new. It's new to us because it really was released to the general public in 2021, 2022. But it's absolutely not something new. It has evolved, and now the ability to understand, it has the ability to learn, has the ability to make decisions. It enhances efficiency and creativity. And as technology advances, AI will remain a dynamic field. It is going to truly shape the future of how humans interact with machines and the world around us. So I love tech. And so when I hear words like machine learning, when I hear words like neural networks, when I hear words like deep learning, I am instantly, my brain's like, oh, I love it, give me more. But I do understand that not everybody has that tech background. And so while I will talk about some of these things because it's important to understand what you're working with, I don't want to get bogged down on a lot of the technical side. Because let's just be honest, most people don't care about the technical side. They want to know, how can I use this tool? Now, who remembers this movie? How many people remember this movie that was dropped? It came out in the early 2000s. If you know what movie that this is from, just put it in the chat. I just want to see how many people have seen this movie. Everybody knows that's Will Smith. And everybody remembers what happens in this movie. I see a lot of people say iRobot. Absolutely. This is a scene from iRobot. And unfortunately, iRobot made us all afraid of the possibilities of technology and especially AI. If you've seen the movie, then you know what happens at the end of the movie when the robots take over. And that fear has literally been ingrained. I remember being young watching that movie, and I was like, oh my goodness, is this a possibility that can happen? Because the movie was set in 2035. And ever since then, I have had that unconscious fear, like many people, of this is where AI can go. And when I have these conversations about AI, whether it's virtually, whether it's in person, at least one person shares that they do not use AI simply because they are terrified. They think about the scenes from Our Robot and they say, you know what, I want nothing to do with AI. And I get it. And so I wanted to share a snippet from that movie to let people know that we all have those fears. We all have seen this movie and we realize the potential. This is what I say, and this is one of my favorite quotes from Tim Cook, Apple CEO. What all of us have to do is to make sure that we are using AI in a way that is for the benefit of humanity and not to the detriment of humanity. I advocate for using tech for good. I tell people all the time in these conversations, I was just blessed to be able to do a session for some of our seasoned community members. I don't like to call them old. I just call them a little seasoned. I was able to do a AI session for them, just introducing them to tech and AI. And one sweet lady said, I'm terrified of this. I don't want to use this. She said, I don't know what the possibilities are for AI. And quite frankly, that scares me. And I had to share with her, it scares a lot of us. But what is 100% out of our control is we can't control what people do with AI. Unfortunately, we have people who will use AI for the detriment of humanity. But what our intention should be and what we should be endeavoring to do is to use AI truly for the benefit of humanity and use tech for good. So let's get into some numbers. And after these numbers, I promise you we're going to dive into some use cases. But I like to show people some statistics about AI. 42% of people believe AI will streamline job processes. 64% of business owners believe AI will help improve customer relationships and their business productivity. Close to 80% of businesses are already using or exploring the use of AI. 7%. By 2025, it is predicted that 7% of jobs will be replaced by AI, and this number has actually increased. The biggest disruptions are predicted to happen in the area of office and administrative support. Why? Because those are jobs that have a lot of mundane tasks that can be easily automated. 97% of business owners believe that ChatGPT, which is the platform we're going to be focusing most on today because I am a little biased, I love ChatGPT. 97% of business owners believe that ChatGPT will benefit their business in some way. Now let's look at this last number. Fewer than 30% of nonprofits are actually using AI currently. What does that mean? What does these bigger industries, what do they know that nonprofits haven't caught on to? Because they're already using AI, they're already integrating AI into their systems. So there's something that the world knows, and nonprofits are a little bit behind on that knowledge. This is why I'm so passionate with bringing AI to nonprofits, because just like these bigger industries are on the forefront of technology and they're already using AI or they're trying to figure out how they can incorporate AI, nonprofits, I believe, should be doing the same. And so the whole premise today of this conversation and this session is to make sure that nonprofits know that the work that we're doing is so important and it's so vital. AI can help us do this work. AI is not here to replace us in doing this work. It's here to empower us and help us do this work more efficiently. I hear people say all the time, I'm scared that AI is going to take my job. I'm scared that AI is going to replace me. AI is not going to replace you. A person that knows how to use AI might replace you. And so I like to always think about that quote and think about that fact, because so many people are scared of the what ifs. But if we get in front of it and learn how to use this tech, then I do truly believe that we don't have to worry about being replaced. So where do you start? And I say to that, just start. Because if you don't in this industry, you will be left behind. So just get started. Here are a few tips I like to use when I talk about getting started with AI. One, start small. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of AI platforms out there. So many platforms. And it's so many platforms that if you try to dive into multiple platforms like I did when I first started AI, I wanted to play around with everything. I wanted to see how everything worked and how everything could help me. And I found myself very quickly getting overwhelmed. Even with my tech brain, I got overwhelmed. So I encourage everybody, start small, get you 2 or 3 AI platforms that you like to use, whether it's ChatGPT, whether it's Copilot or Gemini or Perplexity, and play around with the features in those systems. Don't try to use everything. Learn 1 or 2 systems first, and that will ultimately help you on this journey and will help you not get burned out and just like, you know what, I'm tired of AI. All of these platforms normally have free trials, whether it's 7 days, 14 days, some even do 21-day free trials where you can experiment and play with the platform absolutely free. I love free. I am an advocate for free. And so when you are looking for systems to use, make sure you're looking at systems that do offer those free trials so that you have an opportunity to play around with it without worry about having to pay. There are also several free certification programs out there. Coursera has a great certification program on prompting. IBM has great certifications on AI, what it is, especially if you're interested in learning a little bit more about the background. I tell people all the time, before you pay for a program, please utilize your free resources first and look at some of those programs that are free and are not charging people to learn these skills. These industries realize that AI is the future, and so most of them are trying to offer certification programs. They're trying to offer certificates. Now you have colleges that are offering degrees in AI. So when you're looking at learning it, always go for your free resources first. Okay, let's dive into the meat of it. And I want to introduce to you large language models. These are what we call LLMs. LLMs are computer programs that have been taught to read, understand, and produce text in a way that mimics human language. They learn from a collection of text, data, and training data, and pick up on how words and sentences are structured. This enables these systems to be able to answer questions, create content, and to have conversation, just like I'm talking with you guys today. And it feels very, very natural. You can almost think of it as a very smart digital assistant that has been reading a lot, learning a lot, and now can share with you what it's learned in its own words. So today, the platforms that we are going to be kind of playing around with is going to be your large language models. These platforms are designed to generate human-like text. They're designed to answer questions. They're designed to simulate conversation and also perform specific language tasks such as translating text into other language, summarization, and more. And so when you see people experimenting with ChatGPT, when you see people using Copilot again, or Gemini, or Perplexity, these are what they call large language models, or LLMs. They have essentially been trained on data and text, and that is why they're able to give you the outputs that they are, and it feels just like having a conversation. And I see somebody ask, I'm trying to present and also monitor the chat. I see someone ask if I could provide a list of free certification programs. Absolutely. I will make sure that that is a resource that you guys have, because there are several, and maybe we can send that out via email. Definitely. Thank you for that question. So let's talk about some limitations before we start using some of these large language model platforms. You have to understand the capabilities or limitations of the software that you're using first when you're using it. This will help you ultimately when you'll know what to expect from it. We have to understand, even though LLMs and AI platforms are expanding and progressing, there are certain things that it cannot do. It's not able to do. Right now, they cannot interact with a lot of external software, websites, and there are some updates that are coming out that are giving these platforms the capabilities to do that. But right now, a lot of them cannot. So you can't go on like ChatGPT and book a flight. Not yet. You can use a plugin for that, but ChatGPT cannot do that. You can't order items on it. It's not like Amazon or Walmart.com or conduct transactions. That's not what these platforms are for. A lot of them do not have real-time updates. So keep this in mind if you're using ChatGPT or if you're using different platforms for research. Specifically, OpenAI ChatGPT is only up to date to April 2023. Which means you cannot pull any real-time information off of a platform like ChatGPT. You're not going to be able to say, hey, can you give me the weather for today or tomorrow? It's not able to do that. The knowledge is static. Now, there are some platforms that can provide real-time updates. Those are your platforms like Perplexity, Gemini, and Claude. But please remember, if you're using OpenAI's platform, ChatGPT, it cannot provide those real-time updates. It does not have the ability to access personal data on your computer. I hear over and over again how people are terrified all of a sudden that AI is going to access its personal data. It does not have those capabilities. Now, ChatGPT just recently did an upgrade, and if you're familiar with it, you may know that it's now ChatGPT 4.0. This does have a memory feature. It's a memory feature that is able to access across conversations, but it does not work outside of AI. So again, it's not going into your files, looking at your documents. It does not have that capability. Right now, ChatGPT's update does allow you to do some audio, but it is not optimized for video yet. But I do believe that's coming because they're already working on another update. It cannot interact with the physical world, meaning that AI is not performing tasks for you that require physical presence, operating machinery, cooking, driving, doing your laundry. Although I wish it could do laundry, it cannot. We have not got that far in where AI could possibly go. So for those of you who are worried about it taking your job and doing a physical job, it can't because it doesn't have those capabilities yet. What makes humans unique is because we have emotional intelligence. AI does not have emotional intelligence. It cannot feel. It does not have a conscience. It does not have a soul. So I like to tell people all the time, when you're using AI for things like grant writing or storytelling, be very careful because AI is going to give you the fact. It's going to give you an outline. But what it cannot do is trigger those emotions like humans can. It can't storytell like we can. And so if you're using AI for grant writing, storytelling, or if you're just communicating with your donors, communicating with the community you serve, keep in mind that it does not have emotional intelligence. I always tell people, if you are doing things like grant writing, I do not recommend using platforms like ChatGPT for original research. Do your research outside of these platforms and then bring that research inside the platform to let it help you get an outline. Let it help you formulate your thoughts. Do not use ChatGPT for research purposes. There is even a little disclaimer at the bottom of ChatGPT when you use it that sometimes tell you to verify your sources. In other words, make sure you're doing other research. And so especially if you're going to be grant writing with this tool, and I think it's an awesome tool to help with grant writing, do your research, get your statistics, get your data outside of ChatGPT. And if you are asking ChatGPT questions where it is giving you facts or quotes, always double check. please, please double check your work and what the outputs that you're getting. Let me go back. Currently, these models don't give professional judgment. It should not be used as a substitute for professional advice in areas like legal, medical, financial decision-making. I know we all want to possibly hit the lottery. We all want to know what stocks are going up. These models are not in the right now, they don't have the capability to tell you, hey, go out and buy Apple stock because it's going up tomorrow. So please, when you're using these platforms, do not use it for a professional judgment. We already covered that it doesn't have emotional intelligence. It does not have intuition. It does not have a consciousness. I was on a Zoom call about 2 weeks ago, and the presenter was going on and on and on about the possibilities of ChatGPT having conscience. And in my head, I mentally just checked out. These are computer systems. These systems do not have intuition and they do not have consciousness. I know our robot has scarred us, but this is not where we are right now. You cannot guarantee accuracy. That's why I always say double check, triple check your sources and your work when you're using these systems. And remember that accuracy is not guaranteed. And as of right now, many of these systems do not have long-term memory. It can remember what's going on, especially with the update to ChatGPT. It can remember what you're talking about between conversations, but that is it. Once you exit out of that conversation, a lot of times in these platforms, it does not have long-term memory. So you may have to give it that information again in order to get an accurate output. So some commonly used large language models. These are the top models that everybody's using right now. I love to tell everybody I am absolutely biased. I love ChatGPT. I love the fact that ChatGPT allows you to be able to make your own GPTs. This is the #1 feature that I use in my organization because I have a GPT to do everything. And I'm going to talk a little bit more later about how you can make these GPTs, but I am 100% biased about ChatGPT. Some other platforms that I am starting to use more is Claude. Claude is great. If you are a ChatGPT user, you know that ChatGPT, since it has done the update, has been doing a lot of crashing. Sometimes when you go in and give it input, it'll just spin as if it's thinking. Bandwidth might be reached and it may take you a long time to generate your answer. And sometimes it might just be down. So I like to use backup methods like Claude is great, Gemini, Copilot, which is powered by Microsoft. And also I'm starting to dabble a little bit now in Perplexity, because if ChatGPT is down and I need something immediately, I will go to some of these other platforms to get my answers. So how do we communicate with large language models? I want to ask a question and you can just drop this answer in the chat. Who do you think communicates better with large language models? Do you think men communicate better, or do you think generally women communicate better? And just drop your answer in the chat. If you think it's men, just say men. If you think it's women, just say women. If you say neither, I don't know, then you can also drop that as well. And I see some answers coming in. And everybody is saying women. One person, I don't know. Okay, that's good. Women, okay. So y'all just aren't giving the men a chance, huh? But the answer to that question is absolutely women. Women communicate better with AI and with these large language models because we are generally better conversationalists. And in order to really get the output that you want with these LLMs, you have to understand you are just simply having a conversation. I see so many people, and please don't be victim of this, who are selling prompts to people, who are offering 1,000 prompts to create tasks, and it is so not needed. The only thing you have to understand is when you're communicating with these LLMs, All you're doing is simply having a conversation. So start a conversation. Type in a greeting. When I'm using AI, I like to say, hey, please, can you? I like to answer the question. I use my manners. You don't have to do that. It's still going to give you output, but I always think about, hey, if we do ever come to that iRobot scenario, I want to make sure that the AI knew that I was nice to it and I used my manners. And so I like to say, please help me with this task. I like to talk to it just like I'm having a conversation with you. Be very specific, be clear. Let them know exactly what you want. And I use the method that is who, what, when, where, and why. And we'll get into that in the next slide, but give it as much context as possible. These models work off of input. The better your input, the better your output. And so if you're talking to these LLM, these platforms like ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever you're using, if you're talking to it and you're not giving it enough context about what you need, then you're gonna have a horrible output, which means you're gonna have to keep refining and keep asking it questions and feeding in information, when if you had did that from the jump and gave it a great prompt, it would have given you a great output. So the method that I've come up with that I feel like is the easiest to remember when you're dealing with prompting is literally the 5W method. And I created this method. I feel like it's the easiest with prompt engineering. Who? Always tell it who you are, what you're doing, what your role is, and who your audience is. What? What are you asking it to do? What are you asking for? What are you trying to accomplish with this prompt? When? Is this request time sensitive? Does it relate to a specific time period? Let it know all of that information up front. Where? Let's say I am creating a program for at-risk youth. I want to tell it, hey, I am an operations manager creating a program for at-risk youth that live in Charleston, South Carolina. Give it as much information as you can. So if you can specify a geographical location, if you can specify an industry or a field, it will help it with your output. And last, why? I am creating this curriculum to help youth what? Navigate homelessness or whatever the case may be. Always tell it your why or what is the purpose behind your request. When you give the LLM or whatever platform you're using all of this information, who, what, when, where, and why in your prompt or in your input, you will get amazing results. When people are frustrated with AI and they say, it's not giving me what I want, it's not giving me what I need, and they have to constantly go back and refine it, it's because they did not give it all of this information up front. So just remember the 5 W's: who, what, when, where, and why. If I could say anything about AI that you need, I would say screenshot this screen because this is going to show you exactly how you need to talk to these models. When you craft your prompts, if you use this method, you're going to get great results every time. So without prompting, without engineering your prompt or structuring your prompt, if you just say create a presentation about nonprofits, first of all, it's going to ramble on and on. And if you are using ChatGPT or have used ChatGPT before, you know that ChatGPT likes to talk. It likes to ramble. It will give you answers that go on for pages and pages if you do not take the time to give it exactly what it needs in the input. So instead of saying, create a presentation about nonprofits, no, let's be specific. I want you to create an educational presentation about nonprofits. This presentation should be aimed at beginners that may have no prior knowledge on nonprofits. This presentation should have 15 slides on the pros and cons. For each slide, present at least 3 key takeaways in bullet points, include visuals, provide detailed speaker notes, and you can also include some jokes or case studies. When you tell it exactly what you want and what you need, from your output, it will give you exactly what you need. And so automatically, you are going to be able to get a better output if you're using these engineer and you use the 5W method for prompting. I took a whole course on Coursera about prompting. It took me days to complete. Don't be like me. Because this guy took us to Africa, back to Asia and Australia just to tell us that we needed to make sure we are giving these machines good information. Use the 5W method. It is so much easier. Who, what, when, where, and why. Tell it the information and you are guaranteed to get some good information from your outputs.
Would you be willing to go back one slide
Sure,
so I can take a picture of that? I'm sorry.
absolutely. Are you talking about
thank
this
you.
one? Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely. This method is amazing. Feel free to
Okay.
screenshot, take a picture. This is it. And I see somebody asked, and let me give some context. Thank you, Colleen, on asking this question that how is it able to answer these questions if it doesn't do research? So these are the questions that you are providing information on. When you're giving these LLMs, these prompts or these inputs, and I want to make sure you understand a prompt or input is the same thing. It's just a conversation that you're having with these systems. This is the information that you want to give it so that when it's rendering its answer, it's pulling the correct context. It is telling you exactly what you want to see. When you don't give it enough context, your answer is going to be very, very vague. And this is the frustrating part about AI, because when you get outputs that are vague, a lot of times you want to give up on it. You're like, I could have did this myself. This isn't helping me. It's taking me more time to use this system than if I had just did it myself. When you give all of the context that it needs, the who, the what, the when, the where, the why in your prompt, you're going to see how much time it is going to save you when you're using these systems. So that's why I always recommend this method. And you can also think about it like when you're conversating with your girlfriend or you're conversating with a friend, you want her to tell you all the details. You want to know the who, you want to know the what, you want to know where, what happened, why did it happen? You want to know all of the information. And so when we think about conversating with these platforms, it's the exact same as if you were conversating with your friend. Make sure you're giving it all of these details so that you can get a good output. I'm going to go on. I hope that y'all were able to screenshot that. If not, let me know. I can also add that into the chat. Let's talk about some biases, because there are a lot of conversations being had right now about the systems being biased. And if you ask me this question, I'm going to say absolutely. There is bias built into these LLM models, because you have to understand, again, how these models work. The output that you're getting from these models is based on data. It's based on training. And it's also based on the developer or programmer that is training the model. So that model will take on the unconscious attitudes, the stereotypes, the bias of the trainer or the developer. And this is important to know when you're dealing with these systems. I'm going to show you one very, very obvious bias that you see. And if you have ever used any of these models to generate images, whether it's DALL-E, which is on the ChatGPT function, or if you're on Bing generating AI images, Midjourney, any of these platforms that will generate images, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I took this prompt and I put it into ChatGPT. I said, generate an image of a little boy scientist doing an experiment. It automatically gave me this image on the left. It does not matter what platform that you go to. If you ask for an image of a boy, of a woman, of a man, of a girl, it is going to automatically give you a Caucasian individual. That person is normally going to have blue eyes, blonde hair, whatever the case may be. Those are some of the biases that are built into the systems. And this is why I stress and I try to advocate for those that work with youth. And I'll talk about this a little bit further into the presentation. I don't want to jump ahead of myself, but if you work with youth, especially African-American youth, Hispanic youth, whatever the case may be, encourage them to look at careers in tech. Encourage them to look at STEM, engineering, all of those career paths, because if the developers don't look like us, it's not going to produce images like us. And that's what I always say. And so this is a very good example of some of the bias that is built into these systems, just with a simple prompt like this. In order for me to get the prompt on the right-hand side, the little boy, African-American boy with the curly hair, I had to specifically tell it, generate an image of a little Black American boy scientist doing an experiment. I had to be very, very specific in that prompt and give it all of this information in order to get that image. If I didn't tell it that, it would automatically generate the image on the left. So keep that in mind. I wanted to use this example just to show you some of the bias that is in some of these systems and how we can change and address some of those biases. So when you're generating your outputs, remember that that implicit bias can be there. These are some platforms that are more on AI, typically founded by African-American technologists, and they have been trained to use African-American data, history, and faces. And so the outputs that you receive from these two platforms are going to be a lot more culturally informed. I had the opportunity to be on a call with Aaron and also a call with John. They are both great individuals and they have done an amazing job with training these platforms. Chat Black GPT is currently in its beta phase. The actual full version is going to launch on Juneteenth, so next week, but it is in its beta phase and you can use this platform. You do have to have a Chat GPT subscription because this is a GPT. And I'll show you in just a moment how you can navigate the GPT store, but this just GPT is amazing. I use it all of the time, especially if I want an output that is more culturally informed. If I'm doing some work or I need an outline on something and I need it to be very specific in information, I love to use Chat Black GPT. Another platform that is currently in its beta phase is Latimer. Latimer is amazing. You can find that one at www.latimer.ai. John is absolutely amazing. And this platform has been, the way he has trained it to have our history, to have African-American history, to understand stereotypes and bias is absolutely amazing. So if you're generating, if you need output that is more culturally informed, I absolutely recommend that you look at these two platforms. They are really amazing. And I want to, I see this comment by Mary in the chat, and I want to highlight this. She said, "Thank you for calling out the bias in images. AI is also trained by alternative text found online, which has a tendency to whitewash images," and that's absolutely correct. It also struggles to produce images that include body diversity, particularly images of women who are not considered thin or without an hourglass figure. And that is exactly correct. I can't tell you how many how many image generations where I had to struggle to get a outline or a figure that was not automatically scanning. Again, those are just some of the bias that are there because of the programmers. A lot of times it will give you women that the programmers like to see or they think is aesthetically beautiful. And so that might not be dark skin. That might not be women who are more fuller in figure or men who are more fuller in figure. That might be your muscular man. And so it's very important to understand that these biases are there when you're using these systems. So thank you for highlighting that, Mary, because that's absolutely correct. Another subject that is all the buzz right now is transparency in AI. We are in a time where communication, whether it's online, whether it is in person, needs to be very clear. It needs to be very transparent. And if you work in HR, you know exactly what I am saying and what I'm talking about. And so I encourage nonprofits to honestly be very transparent in your use of AI. Have clear communication. Sometimes if you've emailed me before, if I use AI to help me generate an email, at the bottom of my email, I'll just simply put one line that says, this email was generated with the help of AI. That's my way of being 100% transparent with the reader that I use AI in some form or fashion with that email. And so we can do this as nonprofits easily. It's not hard. It's not something that requires a lot of thought, but in the long run can help us a long way. I always recommend if you're using AI to develop social media content, if you're using AI on your website, even if you have an AI chat bot, the little chat bots that pop up on the bottom of your website, just include a little clause in your terms and conditions or your FAQs, your frequently asked questions that said, images on this website may have been generated by AI, or AI may have been used in the creation of this website. Just be honest and be transparent. We are in a time where, like I said, AI is 100% a buzzword. So many people are using it, and so many people are coming to terms with the fact that more and more people and organizations are going to be using AI. So if we can just be as transparent as possible with our clients, with the communities that we're serving, with our employees, our board members, our stakeholders, it really builds trust, and it does encourage that collaborative environment where people say, okay, they're using AI. And it also helps you get noticed. I can't tell you how many times if I include that little clause at the bottom of my email, somebody will email me back and say, wow, you use AI to generate this email. How did you do that? Even on, like I said, websites, when you say, hey, I use AI to develop this, some people will spark conversations and say, hey, I'm interested in how you use AI on that website. And it's a great way to spark further conversations. So when it comes to transparency, I say always just be clear in your communication, be honest, use culturally informed platforms. Again, those two platforms I just suggested are amazing when it comes to providing outputs that are culturally informed. Use those when you're creating your marketing campaigns or you're creating different materials. In 2024, I want to be completely honest with you. There is no reason that all nonprofits should not be able to, one, translate their marketing materials into Spanish or other languages, and B, use more inclusive images in their marketing. I use Canva all the time, and even on Canva, you can see the different races and the different images that are on there. You can also use AI to generate these images. So there is no reason why in 2024, we are not taking advantage of AI to make sure that our marketing materials are appropriate and they are targeting the communities that we actually serve. I can't tell you how many times I love marketing. I have a background in marketing. How many times I see images that only show one culture or one race. And half of the time, it's not even the race that the organization is even serving. And so I'm a huge advocate for, if you are creating marketing materials, if you are creating social media content or whatever the case may be, use AI as a tool to help you translate those materials, whether it is translating it into Spanish or help you generate some images that are culturally appropriate for the population and communities that you serve. And lastly, host workshops, host webinars, educating people on AI. I thank and I champion Together SC so much for they have always been at the forefront of this AI conversation, making sure that the information is getting out there. And you can do the same within your organizations. If you're doing training with your employees, or if you're doing training with your volunteers or whoever, even if you're doing training or workshops with your clients, don't forget AI. Host those workshops, host those webinars, and educate people on the uses of AI and how it can be used for good. And this is going to help dispel some of the fear in the community as well. When tech jobs go unfilled, its missed opportunity is so prevalent. And this is a quote from former President Barack Obama. And I absolutely love this quote because it's the truth. When tech jobs go unfilled, it's a missed opportunity for the workers, but it's also a missed opportunity for your city, your community, your county, your state, and ultimately our nation. And I know a lot of times I do get on the soapbox about pushing our youth into these tech careers, but this is why, because when these jobs are unfilled, when there's not representation at the table for the trainers and the developers of these LLMs and these platforms that we're seeing, we're going to continue to see the biases because other cultures and different cultures don't have a seat at the table. So this is one quote I just love to use by President Obama, just to show how important tech is in our communities. Communities that can benefit from AI. Here are some of the just specific communities that can particularly benefit from investments in AI and tech, along with and I want to give some of the examples of how these technologies can be utilized. First and foremost, in our Black and African American communities and the rural and underserved communities. When I was growing up, there was a platform called MySpace. And if you grew up in the 90s, you know exactly what MySpace was. It was social media before Facebook. So before Facebook came out, before your Twitter or your TikTok or all of the platforms that we had now, we had MySpace. We did not know that when we were programming MySpace or when we were coding our pages, because honestly, what we were doing was coding. We did not understand the skill that MySpace was forcing us to have. I had on my MySpace page the falling letters, the music playing in the background. If you are a 90s baby, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The words that would scroll across the page. And I had no idea that when I was putting those things on my simple MySpace page, my top friends or whatever the case may be, that I was actually coding. I was actually programming. I had no idea that I was honestly doing HTML coding at middle school age and high school age. And if I had known that and knew where I was going to be, fast forward 15, 20 years later, I would have absolutely retained those skills and probably went in a different direction career-wise. I say that to say this. If you serve communities with young Black boys and young Black girls and young Hispanic boys or whatever the case may be, show them the importance of tech. One thing that you can do with AI in your programming is include courses about tech and about AI and how they can use AI even now. And I know that AI is kind of a taboo subject. A lot of teachers don't want to use it in education. Some teachers are on board about using it in the classroom. But one thing that we can do is start introducing these populations to tech and AI now, because you have no idea what seed you might be planting in their mind. You might be planting a seed for future engineers. You might be planting a seed for future developers of some of these AI systems. And so I encourage people that serve these two communities, encourage them to use this tech, to use this AI. My son, he's 5 years old. He'll be 6 at the end of this month. He has already had his first preliminary coding class. I wanted to enroll him early just to see if he possibly had an interest. In my mind, I already knew he had an interest because he's a gamer. He loves playing video games. If you have kids at home or you have children in programs that you serve, whether it's after school programs, summer programs, mentorship programs, if they are displaying an interest in games, PlayStation, Xbox, whatever the other systems are, because I'm not a gamer, but if they are already showing interest in these systems, you could be talking to future coders and developers and planting that seed. And so I encourage everybody who are serving communities of youth in the Black and African American communities, in the rural and underserved communities, point them in the direction of tech. Another hint that I love to give out is when you're thinking about grant funding, there are a lot of avenues of grant funding and money coming open for those that are incorporating programs that highlight AI and highlight STEM. So if you are serving, like I said, youth, especially in these two communities, think about including some tech programs or tech workshops or tech sessions into your programming, because that could be very well a way that you can target funders and also find grant funding for those programs. So that's just a little hint. If you are serving the elderly and aging communities, or who I call our seasoned seniors, this is another perfect time to start introducing AI to them. A lot of them are going to be hesitant. I'm going to tell you that out front. They're going to be scared, because you have to think in their lifetime, they went from not having tech and the TV going off at 8 o'clock when you heard the national anthem being played, to now this world that is wide open with AI. And that can be a little scary, but that is also the perfect time to introduce them to some of this tech and to some of this AI advancement. A lot of your platforms, when you think about navigating benefits, the SNAP platform, applying for Medicaid, applying for disability and retirement, all of these platforms are transitioning to online platforms. This is the #1 population that's going to get left behind, because in this transition, they're getting lost, which means they don't know how to use these systems. I cannot tell you how many times, and my mom is not a senior citizen, but she is a little older in age, and I cannot tell you how many times my mom calls me and say, hey, my Facebook just crashed, my phone isn't working, and she needs me to help her navigate that. And as much as it is aggravating, it also reminds me that we should be helping our elderly and aging communities in this transition. And so if you can host classes, workshops, webinars, about, you might have to start very small. You might have to just do a computer 101, show them what a computer is, how to turn it on, and work your way up to how they can incorporate AI. It is so worth it. You're bridging that intergenerational gap, one, but you're also showing this population how they can use technology ultimately for good and to advance their life. If you serve the immigrant and refugee communities, I cannot hark enough on how you can use AI for translation. I have compared Spanish translations from like ChatGPT and Google with one of our translators here in our free clinic. And she tells me all the time, these translations are spot on. These are amazing tools. Again, if you're developing marketing materials, even if you're just communicating with clients to use for translation. If you're serving or an ally for the LGBTQ plus communities, this is an amazing time to use AI to help them navigate resources, point them to if they need mental health counseling. You can use AI for all of these. I have a GPT that I love to use. I'll talk about it a little bit longer in the presentation, but it helps people navigate different resources and mental health resources. And that's a perfect time right now to use AI to do that. And lastly, people living with disabilities. So AI is making accessibility accessible. It is helping if you have those that I'll show you a little bit later, the app, you can actually do voice to text or talk to text, which means you don't have to actually type these prompts out. You can talk to ChatGPT, talk to see Alexa. And so if you're serving that population, think about using AI and how AI can help them with accessibility. In healthcare, community initiatives have a free clinic. And one thing I love is that some of the GPTs that you can create are going to be game changers in the healthcare field. A lot of your EHRs like Athena, Epic, they are already looking to see how they can incorporate AI into these EHRs. So it's not here yet, but trust me, it is coming. So if you're working in these different areas, you can use AI to do so much and be at the forefront of what's coming. I'm going to wait before I get into prompting because I want to first talk about downloading ChatGPT. So this is the point where the rest of the presentation is going to be very, very interactive. If you have your devices, whether on your computer, your phone, your iPad, we can do some interactive working now with ChatGPT. I'm going to be using and talking about ChatGPT and Claude. I know that there are other platforms, but these two platforms are honestly and truly the easiest to use. And again, I am a little biased. I love ChatGPT. So if you've never used the platform, you can find it at www.openai.com. If you are on an iPhone or an Android device, the app is also available in the Google Play Store or the Apple Play Store. ChatGPT does have a free version. So when you download or start using it, you can create an account. You do not have to pay for a subscription. Off top, you can use that free version. It is the 3.5 and the 4. I'm saying both of them because with the update that ChatGPT just did to 4.0, some users are still on that 3.5 version as an option, and some people have the option to access that 4 version for free. So I'm putting out both of those versions so you can know the difference. You also can do a paid subscription. It's $20 a month, and it includes the DALL-E function. So that's your ability to generate images. That's also your abilities to be able to use and create GPTs. So if you are interested in creating a GPT for your organization, and again, we'll talk about that a little bit later. If you're interested in actually creating a personalized GPT for your organization, then you have to have the paid subscription in order to create. If you have created a GPT and you share it with someone, they can utilize it from the link if they have the free version, but they cannot edit it and they cannot create further GPTs. So I like to clarify that a little bit. If you're going to be creating GPTs, if you're going to be generating images, you are going to need that $20 paid subscription. To me, it is the best $20 that I spend every month on an AI platform. I will give them their $20 faithfully every month because it is absolutely worth it. Also, if you're using ChatGPT and you use it a lot, if you're on these free versions, you'll start to see when it kind of slows down and they begin to limit your messages because you do not have unlimited opportunities to input prompts. And so if you're on free version and using it a lot, you may run into that issue. People that are going to use it a lot, if you know that $20 subscription. If you are going to be using ChatGPT with other team members, so let's say you want multiple users in an organization, then I would encourage you to go ahead and get a Teams account. This means that you're going to be able to share your ChatGPT account with your other HR or whatever the case may be. You are going to need that Teams account in order to do that. I encourage everybody, if you're just starting out, play with the free version. Play with the free version all day long and see if it's something that you want to make an investment for and upgrade and get the $20 or possibly get the Teams if you're going to be using it in an organization setting. So if you're new and you're downloading ChatGPT, if you're opening up ChatGPT, I'm going to get ready to go into it just to show you how it works. But this is absolutely my absolute favorite platform when I am dealing with AI. And if you'll give me a second, I'm going to switch screens and show you what ChatGPT looks like. And Mary said you could tell when it switches to 3.5 to 4. Absolutely. The outputs are so much better if you're in 4 or if you're in 4.0 and using the paid subscription. I have played with the 3.5 version and I have switched to 4 in the middle of playing with one, and you can almost tell the difference with your output. So definitely keep that in mind when you're using these systems. If you give me just a moment, I am navigating to where I can show you guys what ChatGPT looks like. This is the perfect time. If you have any questions, come off mute. You can ask the questions. If you need help downloading or opening either one of these apps, this is a great time for this as well. Okay, so this is what ChatGPT looks like when you first log into your platform. And I want to make sure everybody's able to screen. Can you see my screen? Can you guys see my screen before I go any further? If somebody will just say yes, we can see it. It's perfect.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So when you log into ChatGPT, whether you have the free version or the paid version, it does not matter. This is what the system is going to look like. You can tell which version you're using by clicking on this down arrow right here, and it's going to show you your different models. So you'll see the 3.5, you'll see the 4. And again, I am using the paid $20 subscription, so I do have access to the 4.0. You'll see these models right here, and you can switch between them at any time. The left-hand side of your screen is what I call your dashboard. This is how you navigate ChatGPT. You can see all of your previous conversations here, and all of your previous conversations are saved. So if you ever need to go back and look at what you did 30 days ago, all of your previous conversations are saved here on your left-hand side. If you have upgraded and are using a paid subscription, you're going to have an option right here where you can explore GPTs. When you click this option, it's going to take you to what they call the GPT store. And again, we're going to talk a little bit more about GPTs in a minute, but you can actually search GPTs right here. And you'll see some of the many GPTs that have been created. Canva is one of my favorite GPTs if I'm creating marketing materials and I just need to get an example. I sometimes use Canva, Zapier, Zap. I call it Zap because I don't never know how to pronounce that word. But if you're using Zap for automation, they have their own GPT. So there are hundreds of GPTs located in this store that you can use. What is a GPT? A GPT is a generative pre-trained transformer. It has been programmed to do a very specific task. So when you're using ChatGPT and you're just putting in input, you could ask it to do anything. These GPTs have been programmed to do a task specifically. So for instance, if I click on the Chat Black GPT beta program, I know I'm going into this GPT. All of my answers or my outputs that I'm getting are going to be culturally informed. If I'm going into a GPT that I've created for my organization, which you can also see here on your left-hand side, if you've ever created any GPTs, they're going to be right here on the left. If I go into one, then I know that all of the outputs I am getting from that GPT is going to be based on the information that I use to train it. Okay, so for example, we have a daycare here, Toddler Learning Center. I have created a GPT specifically for the Toddler Learning Center. Any information that I put into this GPT is going to, the outputs that it's going to give me are going to be specifically trained and catered towards TLC. If I don't want those answers to be catered towards TLC, then I need to exit out of it and go back into the regular ChatGPT platform. Okay. So here you see your ChatGPT logo. That's how you know you're on the OpenAI ChatGPT platform. Right down here is where you're going to enter your inputs. You have a paperclip here where you can upload documents. You can collect it, you can connect it to your Google Drive, you can connect it to your Microsoft OneDrive if you want to feed it documents or PDFs, or if you want to upload something from your computer. So one feature that I love to use for ChatGPT is summarization. Let's say I have a PDF that's 5 pages long. I don't want to read the whole PDF. I just want a summary of it. You can upload that PDF right here to ChatGPT and let it summarize it from start to finish. And it does it in a matter of seconds. I want to highlight this disclaimer that I talked about at the beginning that's at the bottom. It says, ChatGPT can make mistakes. Check important information. That's their way of telling you fact check, and make sure that if you are using it, especially in grant writing or whatever the case may be, make sure you are double checking your information. So if you need to navigate between the different versions, again, if you just click this down arrow right here, it will allow you to do that. Somebody asked in the chat, does it only save if you have the subscription? No, even if you have the free version, if you're using the unpaid version, it is going to automatically save all of your conversations. And if you upgrade, if you decide that you want to do the paid subscription, or if you decide that you want to do the Teams subscription, all of the conversations that you had previously will still be there. So you do not have to worry about losing any information or you losing any of your conversations. Kim said, why would you want to use anything other than 4.0 if you have access to it? Because when you are generating your outputs on these different versions, after so many outputs, and forgive me, I do not remember exactly how many conversations it is since they've done the update, because the GPT 4.0 just came out like within the last 3 weeks. So I do not know what that number has updated it to, but after so many conversations, ChatGPT will tell you you've reached your limit for the day. and you cannot do any more conversations. That's why I said, if you're going to be a user that's going to be using ChatGPT all the time, like me, if I'm at my computer, I always have ChatGPT open. I'm using it constantly during the day. If I'm generating emails or whatever the case may be, I'm always using it. And so that's why it benefits me to have that paid subscription, because on the free versions, they will start to limit your conversations. And the worst thing in the world is to be in the middle of, especially if you're doing something very important or something that you're on a time constraint for, and you're using ChatGPT, you're putting in your input, and then it tells you, I can't generate any more output. So if you're going to be a user that is going to be using it a lot, I would encourage you to go ahead and upgrade. If you're not a user that's going to use it, if you're not going to use it a lot, then you probably would be fine with the free version. I hope that answered your question. If you have the paid version, would you ever want to, but if you have the paid, would you ever want to choose one of the other models? I have done it just to compare answers. So sometimes I want to see which one is going to give me a better output. My number one is going to always be my paid version, the 4.0. But I have used, like, switch to the 4 or the 3.5 just to see how my answer might differ. If you're not a person like me, because sometimes I want to see which one is giving me a better answer or a more detailed answer, then if you have the paid version, you probably will never go back to the free. I'm going to be completely honest with you. But sometimes I do want to see what's the difference in answers. And so I will switch between those versions if that makes sense. Okay, let's get into some prompting. I want to show you what I was talking about with image generation. Again, I want you to remember that in order if you're going to be generating images using the DALL-E feature, then you will need the paid subscription. To the best of my knowledge, I do not think you can generate images with the free subscription right now, even with that upgrade. So if you're planning on generating any images for marketing or what have you, you are going to have to make sure you have that $20 version. So I'm just going to enter a very simple prompt. And I want to show you some of the bias that's in the system and how it works with prompting. And so this is what you'll do when you type your input. And I just asked it to generate a little girl that is an astronaut. And I'm glad I did this. I did not mean to do this. I left out the word "and." That does not matter. These models are trained to interpret your text. So if you have grammatical mistakes, or if you're like me, you're typing too fast, you might leave out a word, or whatever the case may be, it's okay. It's trained to interpret text. So it's going to fill in those words that you leave out. Okay, I asked it to give me a little girl that is an astronaut. Look at the image that it automatically generated. And so this is why I was harking on the bias that's in the system. And this is why I was harking on making sure that you give it a lot of context and a lot of details when you're talking to it. Because when I just gave it that short prompt, this is what it automatically gave me. And so if I wanted an image with a darker skin tone or another ethnicity, I would have to specifically tell it to give me that. And somebody said she looks Asian to me. I honestly don't know what she might be, but this is just the images that it's going to automatically give you when you're generating images. So when you're in a conversation, I could ask it to please regenerate. And again, it is not a necessity that you use please. I just like to use my manners again. If there's going to be a robot apocalypse, they're going to save me because I was nice to it. So I always try to use please and thank you. I could ask it to please regenerate this image and make it a and I'm just going to ask it to give me another image of a dark-skinned African-American little girl that is an astronaut. And so you can ask it to, and my spelling is horrible, but that does not matter. You can ask it to regenerate and it will do that. And so this time, because I gave it more context and told it exactly what I want, it should give me an image that is more in line with what I want. If it does not, then we might have to refine this prompt. And so this, there you go. So now you see an image that is a little bit different. A more African-American features. Yeah, I could have went with a little darker skin, but that's okay. If I wanted somebody that is darker skin, I could again take this prompt, regenerate it again, and ask it for maybe describe a different skin tone. But you can see that with more details, it's going to give you a better output. So I wanted to start with the image first, just to show you, one, some of that bias, and then two, show you what you need to do in order to generate images that are more culturally appropriate. And again, this is going to work for any culture across the board. So while I'm in this conversation, if I wanted to keep going, if I wanted to try to keep regenerating images and trying again and again, I could while I was in this conversation. I'm not going to. I want to do something new now. So if I go up to this button right here that says new chat, if I click it, it'll automatically take me to a new conversation within ChatGPT. So that is how you switch conversations. And you're able to navigate. Now, if I wanted to go back to the little astronaut, then I would just go to on the left-hand side, click on that conversation, and it'll take me back. So that's just how you navigate in between conversations. I see that Kelly also pointed out another bias that is very specific. If you do not include gender, that is absolutely true. And you ask for like a scientist or a politician or something, 9 times out of 10, it's probably going to give you a man. So that is some of the gender bias that you also see when you're using these platforms. So kind of be aware of that. Unfortunately, if you want a woman, you're going to have to be very, very specific and say, generate a politician that is a woman, or generate a woman politician, generate a Hispanic woman politician, generate a Asian woman politician. You have to be very specific when you're talking to these platforms to navigate those biases. Could you show again how to start a new conversation? Absolutely. So when you get ready to start a new conversation and you're already in a conversation, you just want to go right here at the top of what I call your dashboard, and it's going to say new chat. Once you click that button for a new chat, it should take you into a brand new conversation where you can start over. Now, I am using the paid version, which means it does have a built-in memory feature. So sometimes you'll notice that when you're having conversations, because of that memory feature, it will automatically start pulling information from your previous conversations if you are using that paid upgraded version. I've had that happen to me, and I just nicely tell it, please do not recall or remember any of my previous conversation. So that's going to trigger it to know, okay, she's starting a brand new conversation. I don't need to recall any details from any previous conversations. I want to say, just like you can tell in your input, these models, whether it's Chat GPT, whether it's Gemini, whatever the case may be, you can tell it what you want it to do. You can also tell it what you don't want it to do. So I don't know if you've ever been on social media, and I see this all the time. If you've ever been scrolling on social media or you ever read something, you can automatically tell. I do not know what it is, but you can tell when somebody has generated that text, that caption, or whatever by AI. Here's the way that you can avoid that. Because sometimes, especially if you use ChatGPT a lot, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you ask it to generate a Facebook caption or Instagram caption, it likes to randomly, I don't know why, throw in just random emojis. we can be talking about, I could be generating a social media caption for our summer program, talking about how much fun they're having on a field trip to the splash pad, and ChatGPT will just randomly throw in a rocket. And I'm like, this does not even apply to what I'm talking about. So if you ever want your output to not have emojis, or if you wanted to not use some of that common AI lingo, like the words discover, delve, dive, what's some other words? Revolutionize, all of those words that are really, really common AI lingo and phrases, all you have to do is tell it not to. So when you're putting in your input, just say, please do not use words that are common AI lingo like discover, delve, dive, revolutionize. Tell it not to use that AI lingo and it won't use it. Tell it not to, please, while generating this answer, please do not include any emojis. If you tell it not to, then it won't. And so I've got in the habit of making sure while I'm telling it what I want it to do, I also tell it what I don't want it to do. Because that way I'm able to tailor the conversation and it will take on more of my voice and more of my personality. Another way that you can have, especially if you're using these platforms for generating a lot of text, a lot of writing, if you're creating a blog or creating social media content captions or what have you, use your previous writings to cater and train these versions to sound like you. For example, if you want to use a lot of slang in your conversation, if you want to use AAVE, African American Vernacular, whatever the case may be, then show it a previous article, show it something that you've written before, and say, I'm uploading a document of something that article that I've written before. During this conversation, use a similar tone. That is a way that you can help start to mold your outputs to sound more like you. And if you would create a GPT, which I am going to show you in just a moment, if you're creating GPTs in that paid version, you only have to do this once. So you only have to upload a document that you previously written one time. It's going to automatically remember what you've uploaded, and your outputs will begin to sound like you. It'll take on your tone. It'll take on more of your mannerisms, so it does not have that robotic AI lingo feel. I see a lot of people that ask this question: how do I get it to not sound so robotic or so computerized? And the answer to that is you have to program it and you have to train it not to sound like that. So if you want it to give you outputs in, let's say, your organization or brand, if you're specifically doing something for your brand or your organization, if y'all cater to a certain community and you want all of your outputs to be relevant to that community, then we need to train it in order to do that. And again, you can upload documents here. You can, one of my favorite things to do is drop a link to your website and ask it to look at your website so that it can get a feel of the community and population that you serve. So when we start a new conversation, I want to go into some good prompting versus bad prompting so we can see the difference in the answers that it's going to give us, and why it's better to do that 5W method, the who, what, when, where, why, when you're prompting so that you can get a good prompt. So again, I use please. You do not have to use please, but that's just my normal when I'm operating. I'm going to ask it just to generate a presentation about nonprofits. I'm not going to give it any more information. I'm just going to use this as a generic prompt. And of course, it's going to automatically start creating that presentation. I love the fact that, of course, it's going to already know your name, which is amazing. But what it is going to do, and it's actually moving faster than I can read, which is okay, it's going to start creating your slides for your presentation. Because I gave it a very, very vague prompt, it is not going to give me anything specific. And so if I wanted this presentation to be geared towards youth or geared towards helping people with disabilities or whatever the case may be, because I did not ask it to do that, it's not going to do that. So this is going to be, now will you get some output? Yes, absolutely. But it's not going to be the output that you want if you do not structure your prompts and engineer them a little bit. So it gave me all of my slides, and it actually gave me 13 slides, which is reasonable for a presentation. If I wanted this presentation to be shorter, I could have told it, please limit this presentation to only 5 slides. If I wanted it to be longer, then I could have also told it, please make this presentation at least 25 or 30 slides. So again, when you start engineering and crafting your prompts, it gives you better output. And so we can see that it gave me my slides, it gave me a title, it gave me a subtitle. It has literally crafted a whole presentation. I could copy and paste and take this and put it directly into PowerPoint, put it into Canva, and present this today if I wanted to. The only problem is this presentation is missing context. Because if I was presenting this to my board and I wanted it to be specifically about my organization, I did not give it enough context in order to do that. So if I want to be very specific and get a presentation about nonprofits in context, then I do need to tell it that information. It does give a lot of general information. It gives you nonprofit structure, gives you some funding sources, gives you some challenges. So this is actually a really good presentation if I wanted to present about nonprofits, but it is not specific. Now, before I go back and give it a very specific prompt, I want to show you some ways that you can tweak this prompt that you already gave it to give you different output. So let's say, for examples, I want to talk a little bit more about the impact of nonprofits. I could go in and say, I like this presentation. Compliment it a little bit. You don't have to, but this is what I normally do. I like this presentation. Can you expand on slide number 9? And so when I ask it to expand on slide number 9, that's exactly what it's going to do. It is going to give me some more information about the impact of nonprofits. So if you're ever crafting a prompt and it gave you a little bit, but you want a little bit more, just ask it. Hey, I like what you've already given me. Can you give me a little bit more? And so now it's giving me a longer output and it's going into all of your different kinds of nonprofits. Again, we have not given it any very specific information. We did not tell it the who, what, when, where. So this information, structure it when we go back and give it a really good prompt so that it can be specific. So it says this expanded slide provides a more detailed overview of the various ways nonprofits impact society. If there are any specific examples or additional points you'd like to include, please let me know. And if you wanted more information, you can say, sure. Please give me more additional points. And when you tell it to, it will. It says, certainly. Here are some additional points to further expand slide 9. But again, we did not ask for anything very specific, so it's just giving me general nonprofit information. If you don't, this is why I hark again on structuring and engineering your prompts. If you are not specific in what you want to see, you will be doing this song and dance all day long. because these these LLMs are trained to give you output. But if you do not ask for output in specific context, it's just going to spit out general output all day long. And so this is why I hark on using that 5W method, that who, what, when, where, why, so that the outputs that you are getting are very specific to what you need. That lessens the work that you have to do on the back end when you are trying to prepare this presentation. So right now, if I copied and pasted this into like a Word document or start copying and pasting this into Canva, I'm going to have to do a lot of tailoring. It's going to make me work harder because I did not specifically ask it to tailor a presentation to at-risk youth or tailor a presentation to those who are underinsured trying to receive or navigate medical care. I did not give it a specific way to do that, and so it's not going to do that for me. At the bottom of all of your output, you're going to see some channels here. Right here are some options on the bottom. This is another way you can tailor your output. The first thing you can do is you can click this little voice button, and
Certainly.
it will
Here are
begin
some additional
to
points to further
read
discover.
your output out loud. I'm not sure if you guys can hear that, but once I click the little speaker read out loud option, it began to read me my output. So again, if you're working on 2 screens or working on 3 screens, you're trying to create a presentation and you don't want to have to keep looking back and forth, you can ask it to read your output to you. If you love the output that you've generated and you just want to copy and paste it and put it into a Word document, this second option is your copy. You can click this, hold it down, it'll copy. You'll see the little check mark pop up, and that lets you know you can copy and paste it into a Word document or Google Sheet, Canva, what have you. If you hate this answer, you're like, I don't know what this is, I need you to regenerate. If you click on these 2 arrows that's kind of in a circle, it will regenerate this answer and start all over again. If you absolutely do not like the output that it gave you, you can give it the thumbs down, which means this is a bad response, and this is a way to train it for it to give you a better response. And if you want to change models, again, if you're maybe working in the paid and you want to go to another version, you can click this little star that has the 4O, click the down arrow, and you can change your model and go to a different model. And it has the different options you have right there. Right now, there is not a way to specifically print output from what you're generating. So what you would have to do is, if you wanted to use this presentation, let's say you wanted to take it and put it into a Word document, you would have to copy it, put it into a Word document, and then print it. I'm hoping that with the next update, they will give you a feature to just print straight from it, but that has not been a feature as of now. So if you ever want to print something that you've generated, you need to copy it, put it into your Microsoft Word, put it into your Google Docs or wherever you want to put it, and then print it from there. Also, as of right now, you cannot export anything specific, like export from ChatGPT. You would have to have a Chrome extension. You would have to connect the API key to like your Google Sheets or your Google Docs. That's a whole extra step. Right now, the platform does not have a way built in that you can export any of your output. So again, if you don't copy and paste it, or if you're not using Google Chrome, like right now, I am on a MacBook. I'm not using Google Chrome. I'm using Safari. So I do not have any extensions turned on. So I would not have any way to export this data. I would just have to copy, paste it, and then take it into another document. Before I go any further, if there's any questions, please feel free to stop me. If I'm talking too fast, let me know. So now that we have generated a general presentation, this is just a general presentation about nonprofits. Again, we did not ask it to give us any specific information tailored to a specific area, a specific population, and it just gave us a general overview a comprehensive overview, as it says, of nonprofits, there's two things that we can do. We can continue in this conversation and say, hey, I don't like this output. I would like a presentation tailored specifically to environmental conservation or whatever your nonprofit does. Or we can start a brand new conversation and start over with a new prompt. This is what I personally would do. I would start over with a brand new conversation and give it more context of the who, what, when, where, and why. Why? Because if I keep building on this conversation, remember, these models are trained to look at all of the text that it has previously generated. So it is going to it might give us a more tailored option, but it also might throw in a little general information from what it's already given. So if I wanted to be very tailored to what I want this presentation to be about, I would want to create a whole nother conversation and start over and give it a prompt that includes more information. I want to show you the memory feature because I do a lot of work, of course, for my organization, community initiatives. If you look at slide 11, it automatically has pulled in some information about CI. Because most of the time when I'm working in ChatGPT, I am doing information about CI. If I wanted to not use that memory feature, I can tell it, this is a general presentation. I do not want to include any information about my organization. Or I can say, please do not remember any previous conversations when structuring this PowerPoint or this presentation. When I tell it that, then that memory feature will disengage and I don't have to worry about it pulling any information from previous conversations. So just keep that in mind. If you're using that paid version and you have that memory feature, but you don't want it to use that memory feature, you can tell it, do not access any information from previous conversations. I want to start from scratch. So what I would do, instead of continuing to build on this conversation, because there's going to be a lot of text, there's going to be a lot of additional information if I keep prompting in this same conversation, I would just go and start a brand new chat. And when you start a brand new chat, this time when I enter my input and I enter my prompt, I want to be very specific about what I'm asking for. So I'm going to show you how to do that with this next prompt. And so I'm typing this prompt in. And again, my spelling is horrible. I'm trying to correct my spelling as I'm typing, but it's okay. Even if I had misspelled words, it's trained to still give me a good output. So don't worry about that part. And so what I'm doing now is just providing as much context as possible. I'm going to tell it this presentation should be geared towards how nonprofits can help them. Okay, so I said, please generate a presentation about nonprofits that serve at-risk youth. So I've automatically started to give the prompt, I'm engineering it and giving it more context. These youth live in Charleston, South Carolina, in rural and underserved areas. This presentation should be geared towards how nonprofits can help them and also give pros and cons in the presentation. If I submit this prompt exactly how it is, it is going to give me a more tailored information, more tailored output. But what I also can do is if I want it to specifically be 15 slides, or if I want it to be a more than 20 slides, I can also tell it that. So I'm going to say, please limit this presentation to 10 slides or less. Okay, so now I've given it a limit on how long I want it to be. I'm going to submit it and let it work its magic. And so now it's giving me exactly what I asked for. I asked for this to be a presentation about at-risk youth. I asked it to be geared toward youth that live in Charleston, South Carolina. I asked for it to give me pros and cons. And I also asked for it to be no longer than 10 slides, so 10 slides or less. And because I was very specific in what I asked it to do, it gave me exactly that. And this is why I say if you use that who, what, when, where, why method, when you're trying to generate your output, you will get better information. And so everything about this presentation has been tailored to exactly what I needed. I could copy and paste this information directly into, again, PowerPoint or Canva or wherever you're presenting, Excel, and use this presentation right now to do a PowerPoint on at-risk youth in Charleston. It's giving me the role of nonprofits. It's giving me some areas where I can include case studies if I wanted to. It's giving me the benefits. It's giving me the challenges, the pros, the cons. So everything I asked for to build a great presentation, it has done all the work for me, and it has done it in a matter of seconds. And this is why AI improves efficiency, because I'm pretty smart and I probably could have come up with this presentation myself, but it might have taken me hours, or it may have taken me days, or I might have to spend a lot of time on it. This AI, this tool is able to do what we're able to do and capable to do, but it can do it in seconds. And so again, I can copy and paste this into Microsoft Word, Google Doc, or wherever, into put it in a Canva, put a little design to it, and I have a whole presentation. And so that is why I love ChatGPT and I love using AI. What I want to do is I'm going to copy this prompt and I want to take it into another platform called Claude. And I want to show you how prompts can be used interchangeably in different systems. So again, I love ChatGPT. It's my first platform I'm going to go to. It's always open on my computer. But if for some reason there's an issue with it, if it's down, if it's updating, I can always use a backup platform. And I like to use Claude as my backup. Sometimes I call her my side piece, but that's my lingo. But I like to use other platforms if ChatGPT is congested or if there's not enough bandwidth. So I can copy and paste exactly what I put into ChatGPT. I can put it in Claude, I can put it in Gemini, Copilot, Perplexity, any other platforms, and also get a great answer, because all of these models across the board are trained on text. So it doesn't matter what model you use, you're going to be able to get some really, really good output. So what I did was I just took that same prompt, copied and pasted it right into Claude, and look what it did. Here's a 10-slide presentation about nonprofits serving at-risk youth in rural and underserved areas of Charleston, including pros and cons. It did a wonderful job. It gave me exactly what I asked for, exactly 10 slides. It gave me the pros, it gave me the cons. What I do like about this output a little bit better is it gave me pros and cons for each slide. So if I wanted to use copy and paste some input from ChatGPT and also copy and paste some of the pros and cons from Claude that is ultimately going to make my presentation better. I use two sources, but it's giving me really, really good information, different information, but both of them could be used combined to make one presentation. And so that's why I always say navigate 2 or 3 sources at one time. It ultimately helps you. And Claude, I'm using the free version of Claude. I have never upgraded to the pro version. So I got all of this information absolutely free. And Claude is located at www.claude.ai, CLAUDE.ai. And like I said, this is an absolutely free platform that just gave me a whole presentation in less than 60 seconds. And so I'm trying to make sure nobody had a question. I am want to open this portion up and make sure I have time for any questions. I want to make sure that we had time for anybody who may want to specifically ask if there are some use cases that you're thinking about for your organization, that you may want to create a bot or GPT for. If you want to ask those questions, I know that I have ran out of time. Like I said, I'm sorry. This is, again, a subject that I am super, super, super passionate about. And so I can talk about it for a while. But if there are any specific questions, feel free to jump on and unmute yourself and ask those before we leave. Somebody said that they don't believe they got the prompt toolkit. Okay, yeah, we'll make sure that everybody that's on the call has access to all of my slides, even the slides that I did not get to, and also has access to the prompts. I don't know, guys, maybe we could do an AI part 3, so we could dive some more into our sessions. And we could talk a little bit more about tailoring and creating bots. Somebody said actively advocating for an organization account, we can feed our policies and train. Absolutely. If you have a shared team account, or even if you have the upgraded account for the $20 version of ChatGPT, you can create a bot. A bot is nothing but a GPT, and you can train that GPT on your policies. You can upload your manuals. You can add your website and everything and use that. So I absolutely would say, if you're going to be using this across the board for your organization, definitely look into that team account, or at least the paid version, where you could create those GPTs. Any other questions before we jump off? I also am going to, let me share my screen one more time, because I know I don't want to abuse anybody's time, but let me share my screen one more time so that I can share some information about how you can get in contact with me. It has my website and also email and phone number on it, so that if you want to dive some more into AI, or if you want to look at some very specific case uses of AI, you can do that by booking a consultation with me. I'll be happy to help any way that I can. I know that we're kind of limited to time. So sometimes I don't get to share all of the information that I want to, but this is my contact information if you want to screenshot it. And I also will make these slides available to everyone so that you'll have it. And we can dive a little bit deeper into AI case use. Thank you again for showing up today, for staying the whole time. I hope that I have shared some information that has been helpful to you when you're prompting and using AI in your organization. If not, the slides are available where you can look at some other information that I have that I just didn't have enough time to share. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Brittany. That was wonderful. I already use AI, but you just showed me so many new things, and I have so many great ideas. Thank you very much.
Thank you.